Hello, good morning. Welcome to another episode of your favorite show, The Afterwards, here on ARPS Broadcasting Media. With me, your host, Binta Ceesay. With me is Mr. Huma. I will just allow you to briefly introduce yourself to the viewers. You're welcome, sir.
Oh, thank you, Binta, for having me on the show. Like you said, I am Ousainou. I'm actually a lecturer at the University of the Gambia, the School of Business and Public Administration, Department of Economics and Finance, teaching mainly macroeconomics and the structure of the Gambian economy. I'm currently a PhD candidate at the Peking University in Beijing.
Okay, thank you so much. We would now have Mr. Baba Kunta Fofana. So you can briefly introduce yourself.
Good afternoon or good evening from my end. Thank you so very much, Binta Cham, for Binta. Let me just stop at Binta for having me on. Let me also join my colleague by saying I'm so glad and happy to be part of this very important activity. I'm a Senegambian, I would say, I'll put it that way. Schooled in the Gambia and postgraduate outside Gambia. I work with the teaching hospital as the head of microbiology department, medical microbiology department at FSTH. I also lecture with the UTG part-time and Iowa, medical microbiology and immunology. I'm currently out of the Gambia, University of Lahore, Pakistan, pursuing my PhD in microbiology. And briefly, that's me.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. We have Mr. Sadibou Jammeh.
Good morning once again. My name is Sadibou Jammeh. I am currently working with Gambia National Petroleum
Yes, we can hear you.
Corporation. All right, that's good. And
Yes.
I'm also a product of the University of the Gambia. And I think Baba and I know each other very well. And I've not don't know Ousainou that much, but I'm sure we are colleagues. And I also lecture part-time at the University School of Business and Administration. And good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. All right. So from the introduction, we'll go straight to the discussions. We start with discussion number one. Article states Gambians have started replacing fish with chicken wings. Fish is now becoming a diamond for low-income families here in the Gambia, which as a result has led them to replace fish with chicken wings, despite the excellent sum of employment and revenue generation. Fish is becoming unbearable to buy in the country and amid the rising cost of living. So, Mr. Ousainou Huma, can you help us find some of the factors that are responsible for the high cost of fish in the Gambia?
Oh, well, thank you, Binta. Regard to this, usually, this is something that one could analyze by looking at what's happening on the demand side as well as on the supply side of the market, because price is usually a very strong signal of these issues. All right, so what we have noticed is that, of course, for the Gambia, fertility rate has been particularly high, and therefore there has been some positive population growth. So you could just look at from 1997, we were a population of 1.5 million. Now we're talking about 3 million. That is 2 times the population. Of course, 2 times the demand that we used to have of fish. So obviously this would put an upward pressure on the price of fish. But also the demand is not only specific to the local demand of the source. We also have a demand for exports, foreign demand. right? The Gambia signed several with foreign which who fish from the Gambia to supply to foreign markets. So that plus the demand, and also on the supply side, I mean, it's echoing. I don't know, Binta, are you guys hearing properly?
Yes, it's echoing, but I can hear you. Although
All right,
I can
okay.
hear you. Right? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
we can hear you.
on the supply side, that is on the demand side. So two things: population has exploded in recent years. There is also foreign demand, but on the supply side, most of the suppliers are artisanal fishermen. So these are low end technology type of fishing. So obviously, in terms of capacity, what they can catch is constrained by that low technology. We also in the Gambia, as you know, cold storage is an issue, particularly explained by the erratic supply of electricity. So I believe this could also explain why, even though there might be a plentiful harvest at certain points in time, a lot of those fish would go to and instead of being used, they're not used properly. So I think this could explain why there is high price for fish in recent years. Alternatively, the switching from fish to chicken wings, we can see that while yes, there are concerns about the employment that the sector has generated, but I mean, it's an economy, so obviously, what we could see is if people are replacing fish with chicken because fish is expensive, this the opportunity to grow the poultry market, the local poultry market, and therefore that could be the source of new employment generation. So, in theory, this is something that is that you don't need to worry too much about it, in the sense that it's just demand supply dynamics that is happening, and this is why we see the price of fish going up. But if people switch, this could eventually could have a downward spiral, wherein we could see more poultry being supplied, and as more poultry is supplied, people switch to chicken, and the prices of fish could start going down. But that is my take on.
Thank you very much. We have Sadibou to give us some measures that the Fisheries Department can take to solve the problem of high cost of fish here in the Gambia, in the market.
Thank you, Binta. I think just taking a cue from what Ousainou has said, I think that's one of the strategies that government should look at in terms of diversifying people's need for food, especially when I think this also happens at the time when the government also sometimes they do some embargo on what fishing and what time to fish. So usually the catch is not as high as other periods. If you look at October when this article was that time, you can see there was some little embargo on what time of the day you have to fish. So that also affects the demand and supply, like Ousainou has said. But again, you will also look at, I live in the Gambia, I know the two of you maybe, and yeah, I think maybe Ousainou also is in Gambia, but you're not here for now, or you are here, you can see that there is also more demand for poultry products, like Ousainou has said. I'm saying this because myself, I'm a poultry producer, I'm a poultry farmer. So you can see fish is expensive. And a lot of other people come to do a lot of chicken products, which, like I said, is very, very important to diversify our poultry food in the country. So apart from that, also, the government should also look at whether these international competitors that are in Gambia should be able to provide some packaging and preservation for the local market, so that not everything that they produce is they have the capacity to be able to keep a lot of fish without going bad. So it's important that we also look at the local content. What can they do in terms of local content? Can they package for local market, store it, and then sell at a cheaper price, because they are able to go to the high seas to be able to bigger catches. So it's important that they do not only look at of course, going outside may make more money for them, but government should also work with them to be able to have a local part of market. This will also bring the down. And I think that government can look at in terms of the imports that they do, what are the taxes on those imports in terms of keeping the local market enough. But if you also make it so easy to take everything outside, that means it doesn't gives an economic sense for them to keep a lot of products in the Gambia, so they will send out. And so there could be a lot of strategies that the government can work these fishermen, and also provide some services and also help them to be able to produce better, because the local fishermen can't compete with the likes of Golden Lead and others that are more, or others fishing trawlers are able to come and do this kind of business in the Gambia. So it's important that we also look at how we can enhance supporting our local fishermen, artisans, to be able to produce better, have better catches, and be able to also sell to the local market. So that are a few things that the government can do to support the.
Thank you very much, Sadibou and Ousainou, for those wonderful views. Without wasting more time, we'll just go to the next discussion, stating the VFS Global partners with the UK on visas and passport services in the Gambia and others. The VFS Global has been a trusted partner for the UK government since 2003 and has won a global contract for overseas UK visa and citizenship services. They have expanded with 20 centers in 142 countries, including 31 in Africa, aiming to enhance customer experiences and reduce UK government costs. So the Gambia is one of the countries included in the VFS Global contract in Africa. How can this benefit? How can the Gambia benefit from this and Africa at large? Mr. Fofana, please. Baba.
Okay, thank you, Binta. First of all, I'd love to maybe say one or two words to the first discussion that we had, but that's fine because we are running out of time.
Oh.
I think I will just go straight to the assignment you have given me. Allow me to reopen this thing again because my internet is just fluctuating. I'm trying to see. Hold on a minute, please. Okay, there you go. It's interesting because as a country, I think we should be at the international level. That means whatever is happening outside world, the Gambia should actually measure to it. So some of these VFS global, things for the visa thing as a country.
I think Baba is having problem with his internet, so I'll just pass it to Ousainou to give
Yeah, just in case it goes out because it's going out, signal is going down. Somebody can continue, then I will reconnect. Well, light went out, it's coming back again.
Oh, Mr. Huma, please. Mr. Huma, Ousainou, you are muted, please. Your mic is muted.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't notice. On the issue of the VFS Global partners, I look at it from one area, the effect it would potentially have on illegal migration, because it's one of those countries that has this problem. And I think one of the reasons from studies that came out is that people use the illegal routes because information on alternative routes not always present. Yeah, so with the coming of VFS Global, I think this potentially be mitigated, wherein people would have alternative options to migrate abroad instead of using the illegal or the irregular routes to migrate to Europe. So there could be, of course, some costs associated to using the VFS Global, which obviously without them, because now they're middlemen, you'd have to still pay for the visa cost, but you'll also have to pay for the VFS Global partners processing fees. But this, compared to the risk that illegal migration will have on the users of such route, would potentially diminish. So we're expecting that this development could, in a way, shift the focus of people in using irregular routes to travel to significantly go down. I, of course, this would be something that one would need to subject to a serious scientific investigation to be able to see. But one of the consultancies I took part in 2020 with the IOM with a colleague, Dr. Jawara. This thing came out very significantly, where youths identified this as a constraint and a reason for using the irregular routes to migrate to Europe. So I think, in general, all I'm just trying to say is that it could positively impact on using safe routes to migrate instead of the irregular and clandestine manner in which those that travel to Europe use in the Gambia. So,
Okay, I think I'm back, Binta. Maybe I can say one or two words before Sadibou. Otherwise, you can move on.
Thank you very much. That's a good point. Do we have Baba is back? So we have Baba. You're welcome back.
Sorry, apologize for that. I think the hostel where I am sometimes is funny. So yeah, like I was saying, there are a lot of positive aspects of this, but we can also be aware of, be a bit careful with the negative aspect of it. What is really informing this decision that these people are trying to do this in our countries? Is there anything happening that is actually going to affect us in the near future also? But positively, if you look at it, how many of our youths, including even the ladies, boys and girls, that perish in this back way they call it? So having this opportunity, I think, will be one way to actually combat the problem. I mean, as long as people are giving out, other alternatives of traveling to some of those countries with, various kinds of getting some visas here and there, I think that will be very helpful. So, because there are a lot of people who really, really have died. We lost a lot of our youths to this back way, so-called back way. And that's a good thing of it. But then we should also be a bit careful what is really there that informed this decision of them to come up with this thing, this prompt. That's my only worry when I read about it. I'm like, okay, that's fine, because sometimes some of these people, they have a permanent interest. So the permanent interest might be they probably will trying to come up with something, and the only way they can do that is to actually introduce this kind of interest. So our technocrats, our politicians, and people who are into some of this decision making and stuff should be a little careful and study this thing, analyze it properly before. It's a good thing, a very good thing, but then you can also be, watchful aside what will come by. I think that's my take on it.
Thank you very much. Sadibou, you have anything to add?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, I think they've made the good points. My only worry about it is it may bring a third party between government to government relationship, because visa has always been government to government relationship, and that is what really dictates what the other country does for the other one. In terms of this, I would also recommend maybe they have a quota that has been established for how many visas the Gambia can get a year, and quarterly, maybe whatever has to be agreed. It doesn't have to be just left to the whims and caprices of VHS, and that may go against the intended purpose of Gambia going or being part of this initiative. So I'm only asking the government to be clear what has the quotas of the Gambia increased or not, because if it hasn't increased, and according to what Ousainou said, we are 2 times or 100% from some years ago. So which means the demand for visa also will increase. But I also want to ensure that the government should also have projects and programs with the UK government that is able to take youths to UK learn skills, and perhaps the same thing for people of the UK to come to Gambia for mutual benefits. So it should be really linked to our political agenda and foreign agenda. Thank you.
That's a good observation. Thank you so much. We move to discussion number 3. Justice Ministry stakeholders discusses recommendations of universal periodic reviews. So we have officials of the Justice Ministry and relevant stakeholders, including security services, have discussed recommendations on the universal periodic review of the United Nations on the country's human rights and laws, emphasizing combating gender-based violence, protecting marginalized groups collaboratively, and identifying ways forward. So, Mr. Sadibou Jammeh, can you please tell us what makes the Universal Periodic Review?
Thank you so much. I think the Universal Periodic, yes, it's very important for us to understand that it is a special UN initiative to look at how justice and human rights in general is viewed, what people can benefit, and what countries are doing in order to support their countries. So it's very important that we look at it from that perspective. What is the government of the Gambia doing in terms of supporting that initiative? So, in my opinion, is a very important for the Justice Department to be involved in such a thing. So, the Ministry of Justice getting all the stakeholders involved, being security, very key there, is also very, very important for us to ensure that we have a deliberate strategy in combating gender-based violence, which is also very, very important for the Gambia, because that puts you on the limelight in terms of international standards. And also marginalized groups. Sometimes we don't realize it, but by nature of what we do, the marginalized groups, we don't seem to recognize them in our mainstream activities and programs, and that's why sometimes they are left unattended to. And so it's important that we look at this, and I'm happy that the Solicitor General himself is very key in this, and that's very, very important. That means at the highest level we have the Solicitor General, who is leading or very key in this initiative. So my take is, for it to work, it doesn't only stop at talking about it, or also only generating awareness about it. What really needs to work, these guys, the stakeholders, everyone needs to understand what they're doing, how it impacts gender-based violence, and most likely, more so, the marginalized groups. So sometimes the marginalized group can be even women who are not looked at from the mainstream policy level. Looking at our women in the garden, are we looking at the women or young children who are not able to go to the best of schools? Are we looking at our youth? A lot of other things we don't realize that we are doing, but they have an impact on gender violence. So these are areas that I think the security are also very key in identifying this. So maybe there has to be a program by the security to be able to get to the nookout corners to see what's happening, what gender-based violent activities or issues are happening in the communities, and they bring it up, because there are laws that are able to address all those things. But if they don't come out, and also the public should be sensitized to bring out these issues, to combat issues, they must come to the limelight. And sometimes government is a bit far from some of these issues, but the community itself, because they're aware, they know that these things need to be brought, and then that will help to really combating gender-based violence. And I think those are some of my thoughts on the topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jammeh. it is shown that the UPR has strengths ranging from its universality and public documentation to the engagement between countries and involvement of different stakeholders. So, Mr. Huma, can you please identify some of the weaknesses of the Universal Periodic Review?
Oh, I'm not sure whether I am equipped to be able to speak to those issues, but what I can say is that the rule of law index, it's a composite index. So if we want to just because I mean, according to the report that I read, there's just a ranking that is giving, and of course the index, but we didn't know from the report. We can't tell how well has Gambia been doing over time. And I have checked actually some statistics. What I have realized is, of course, in terms of ranking within Africa, I think we are ninth, which is pretty decent relative to the other countries. But look, globally, we are not that great. And plus, over time, we haven't made much of an improvement because our index has been stagnating at 0.49 from 2020 to 2023. And so one would say that we haven't improved much. The other thing is that there are multiple indicators looked at, and some of the drivers of the low rule of law index in the Gambia includes corruption. I mean, of course, this is something that as a country, we need to mitigate the gender-based violence that, of course, was the subject of the URP. It's very important in that, of course, marginalized groups are excluded from a lot of things. This could reduce the overall competitiveness of an economy, especially a developing economy that aspires to increase economic status. So I just say, I mean, the analysis could have gone a little further, especially the news article that we've read. I could have gotten into what has happened, perhaps a 5-year period to date or 10-year period, then one could really appreciate the progress or the lack thereof that the Gambia has made based on the index. So this is pretty much what I could say, because I'm not also a person. So obviously these things, I'm not very much. I will just give a layman's criticism of it, but I can't be so technical with respect to it. So I hope I am able to say something that makes sense to those that are listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ousainou. Baba, you have something to add to this?
Saying that this is a bit technical area. Okay, they may argue that we are doing well, but laymen like us, what are some of the indicators that were used to actually gauge to say that we are doing well and we are at that level, the index? That's one thing I don't know, but I cannot say much about it. My only issue now will be the involvement. Now, these things that they've actually, like Sadibou was talking about, did they use the right people? Because sometimes it's not what is on the paper, it's about who puts it there. It's not what has been said, it's about who said it. So some people who are in the authorities who are writing some of these things are making noise about some of these things. Are they really biased in their decision making? Are they really biased in what they are saying? That's one thing we need to look at. But like Ousainou said, I'm not a legal personnel, and I'm a bit worried to say anything that probably will go off way. And it may not make sense to anybody who is listening. But my concern is what and who is looking at these things, or who is actually making that thing that we have done well, we are at this level, and this is our ranking and stuff. I think that should be looked at. But other than that, to be honest, I didn't think I have much to say on that.
All right. Thank you very much. We move to discussion. Actually, we were supposed to come to discussion number 4, but I believe it is already linked with discussion number 3, and Ousainou Baba, Sadibou, you've all touched on discussion number 4. So we'll move straight to discussion number 5. GRA officials begin nationwide tours to receive first-hand information from post stations. So the Gambia Revenue Authority, as part of their annual routine, commence a nationwide tour to receive a first-hand information about working conditions and challenges faced by staff on these stations. So discussing progress and plans, emphasizing the need to overcome challenges and urging staff to uphold the institution's reputation. So to Ousainou, what should the institution do after acquiring the first-hand information from these stations?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good exercise in that it will inform the next steps that the revenue authority takes. But I mean, like, they should obviously do something, but we can't say for sure what steps. But all I could say is the exercise is meant to inform the next steps of the authority. Gambia is known to not meet its revenue collection capacity because its current revenue collection capacity is in the 20%, in the mid 20%. So we have a lot that can be done, and this kind of exercises will help identify the weaknesses or the leakages in the system that we have, and this exercise will be able to arm those that are in the position to decide such issues, what need to be done. For instance, maybe it's that that we have a very large formal sector, right? And thus the tax base excludes all of these, the current tax base. So a reform need to be probably done. But, again, this is an internal exercise. So, one could also be sympathetic to the, or could be worried to the issue that would the findings be as objective as possible? Because, of course, you're assessing your own staff. You want to make sure that the people feel that the kind of decisions you've been making were right. So that is something that one can worry about. So I think after this exercise, if anything concrete should be done, and if they're interested in doing some reforms that will increase the revenue collection potentials, an independent investigator could be hired, who would, of course, either confirm some of the findings they have, or bring out some issues that might be very important in closing such a gap. I think this is mainly what said exercise could be meant for. It's you gauge your progress and see whether there are things that in the medium and short term you can do. If there are, then you do them. If there are things that, of course, are meant for the long term, then you need to think about these things very seriously. And one way to seriously think about these things is to hire some external investigators, and these external investigators, albeit if they are objective, should be very helpful, especially in improving the collection potential for the Gambia Revenue Authority. So the spirit of the exercise, as I said, it's very good. They're going to do with the findings is another question. But ideally, what we expect them to do is to be able to fill the gaps that they found from. I mean, the article. What we've seen is most of the, at least at underlying, the targets they are able to meet. But we're talking about the potential relative to the economy. It's very low. So one would question whether those targets are very realistic, considering, I think, if I'm not mistaken, our current potential in revenue collection is around 28%, right? So at 28%, and as of November, you're saying at underline that 98% of the target is met. I think perhaps I may be wrong, but I think the targets might be too easy to achieve, right? Considering that this was done in November, so by December, we could expect that the 100% target is met. So then that would imply that there is no problem. So like I said, an independent investigator might be a better way to go about this, so that they can help fix the problem of low revenue collection potential. Right. Over to you, Binta.
Thank you very much,
All right.
Ousainou. Let's have Mr. Sadibou. Could you suggest some other strategies that the GRA can use, like they said to their staff to uphold? Yes. Okay. Mr. Sadibou,
Yes.
I hope you're getting my question.
Yes.
Can you suggest what other strategies that the GRA can use to uphold its organization's, its institution's reputation?
Thank you so much. I would like to take a cue from Ousainou. I think the spirit is good for the senior management to be involved, to get to the ground. First-hand information, as is stated in the article, is important. However, I also agree with Ousainou that the targets might be too easy to achieve. And if you look at Amdallah, it's like 200 million. That's just about 16.6 million. And so let's look at how we can affect us. So one of the strategies they can utilize or use, which they have started doing something, I must commend them, GRA, for the Asukuda World. Asukuda World is a new payment system that helps people to put in everything they have in a system through what comes from the agents. So the agents will have to fill this on behalf of the clients, and we have seen that it has really helped in terms of organizing payments and to avoid delays. That's also one important thing. The other important element which they have started also, I must also commend them, is the e-tracking system. The GRA is coming with the e-tracking system to be able to ensure that everything they do goes through an electronic system. So once that you have those kind of systems, it helps to really improve controls and minimize leakages. But again, one of the best strategies they have to employ is to have the entire system automated, so that even coming from outside, not even Gambia, people who are sending things from outside, it should be automated in such a way that payments are done, GRA or whatever, through an electronic system. You don't have to. There is a lot of problem with cash in this country, Binta. And unless we realize that we need to improve on really making this country a cashless society. Cash has become so much tempting, and it leads to a lot of corruption. So we need to ensure that we minimize cash at every level we can. And this is to be the focus of GRA. Because once people have cash in their hand, they can do a lot. Human beings are just human beings. But if there is no cash, all you are supposed to do is to, the system tells you that you move on, you don't move on. If the payment is done and it's cleared, then you go. The other strategy they have to work on is to improve the technology to be able to do a lot of scanning to know what products are coming in. Because people can come and declare products that are not a specific category and they are paying for less. So that's all part of the automation that they need to do in terms of improving the technologies to be able to really scan and know exactly what is coming into the country. And because GRA customs point, for example, is a very important element. And if the customs department is not able to really use technology to improve, then there's a lot of leakages. 28% of our target, our potential is so low as a country. And if imagine government improves to 70 to 80 to 90% of collecting our potential revenue, there's a lot of improvement this will do in terms of even reducing the the burden the country is going through. So it's important that we look at it from that perspective and all hands on deck to ensure that we have a technology-driven economy that will help our revenue generation for national development. Thank you,
Indeed.
Binta.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Sadibou. Baba, do you have anything else to add? No, I think we have lost Baba, so we would just go to the final article for the day, which states the UK commits 7.4 million pounds additional funding to Africa's disaster risk. So the UK commits 7.4 million pounds to the African Development Bank's ADRIFI program, aiming to enhance climate resilience in Somalia over 3 years, focusing on sovereign drought insurance. Somalia faces one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, with the devastating effects of climate change hitting the most vulnerable the hardest. So, what's your thought about Africa's disaster risk program and the UK's funding commitment? Baba?
Hello, can you hear me? I barely can hear you. The network is so bad from my end.
Okay. I think Baba is not settled yet, so we would have Sadibou to take on that question.
Could you repeat the question again?
So, what's your thought about Africa's disaster risk program and UK's funding commitment?
Generally, I think it's a good initiative for the UK and other donor and partner agencies to support initiative in terms of assisting countries, African countries, in strengthening their resilience. But I always believe in that Africa should begin to look at it from within. We should not look at the developed economies as a solution to our problems. In the first instance, climate change is a very important element in terms of our productivity, from farming to agriculture to every element of our society. So it's important that Africa looks at it from within. What can we do together? There are a lot of things that we can do. Africa has been known for a lot of organic farming methods that we are also very helpful. And yes, it's important to go industrial and to do a lot of other things, but it's important to ensure that we are able to improve our ways of doing things without destroying the climate, and that is one of the reasons. And one of the things that will also lead to is other element to it. What we don't see is they are doing the Western people also are doing a lot of this support to stop us from growing, and we also need to understand that yes, these risks are also inherent in what we do, but we should also improve our own strategies in terms of how we can generate a lot of revenue for our growth. Yes, Somali region has been affected. A lot of things, support is needed in that area. But I also believe in the fact that humanitarian problems are not as serious as we think they are in Africa. Yes, they are a big problem, but we need to look at our key areas of economic growth and spend a lot of money as African economies to be able to grow. Because this is very important for me as an African. I'm an African protagonist of African development by Africans. And this is one way of us doing our very best in terms of helping our African to grow. So one, we need to reduce climate change, climate issues, the ways of doing things that affect our climate. Yes, I agree. But we must also, at the same time, agree that as Africans, we need to really be a bit more realistic in addressing African problems, droughts and other things. Some of those things are human-made. And if you improve the way we do business, the way we do farming, the way we do issues here in Africa, we will minimize a lot of things. Yes, there are things that are natural, floods will come. But I also want the Europeans and the West to understand we don't want the support to come after damages. We want the supports to come before these things happen. I think that's my, my point of argument. Most of the support come when we are in a crisis, but I think the support should come before this crisis happen. Then we know where the risks are, and we address those risks as African. And then we must also go to Europe or West with what we think we need most, not for us to sit and allow things to happen, and then we go scavenge. We go beg for support. I think that's something we need to look at from the perspective of African countries.
Thank you very much, Sadibou. We have.
Thank you so much. Yes, as Mr. Sadibou, I agree with you that the support that we're getting from the Europe and beyond should come at the right time and not after when the disaster occurred. But I think I'll better defy a little with you there because they do some of these things out of their own interest. So I agree with you fully when you said there are a lot of things that we can do within Africa. Look, we've got a lot of Africans who are so much knowledgeable in terms of, you name them, climate change, resilience, name them in all areas. So we can do a lot for ourselves. Yes, some of these things are natural disasters, I agree, and then some of them are man-made. But we need to change the way we do things, and we need to support ourselves. And then there are a lot we can do. There are a lot that we can do on our own, that we can support. Because my worry now really is some of this support we are getting from the European countries, from America, and those donors, they come with a lot of cost. They come with a lot of cost. Either we are going to pay for it during our days, or our future generation are going to suffer. Or they will pay for something that they didn't even, benefit from. So what we can do as a continent is to come together, and make sure we mobilize our resources, mobilize our human capacity, and we do things on our own. Yes, we can get some support from them, but sometimes these supports come with a lot of cost. It comes with a lot of cost. So we need to be very much careful with it. Risk assessment can be done. As a nation or as a continent, we can do risk assessment on our own, even before the disaster occur. People are well trained in those areas. They are able to go and do risk assessment into the communities. You go to the, places where there are potential, areas to have some disasters. And the period or the time that disaster usually hit these areas or these places, way before that period comes, when people can go there and do some risk assessment, and then you come up with facts that are going to be analyzed, looked at, and then we can support and help before disaster comes. Because these things we are getting here is very good. They are helping us, but good number of them are even grants. We have to pay for them. We have to be a bit careful. That's always my argument. For me, I always believe we need to be advocates where we'll come together, we'll pool our resources, we'll get our intellects to come home if need be. Although coming home sometimes is always a difficult thing for some of them because they cannot be sustained. But there is a need that we can do a lot to make sure our climate, and then the environment is taken care of. Again, even the way we do our farming, we now need to change to organic farming. We now need to change where we have to use some microorganisms. All right, some of these pesticides, some of these herbicides are usually have serious impact on our society, serious impact on our health. What can we do to make sure we do away with these herbicides, do away with these pesticides? What can we do to make sure we use, organic farming, and then we make good use of the microorganisms to make sure that some of these things are done? So as a continent, I think we can do a lot. So we say bravo to them. We say thank you for this support, but we also have to be very much careful as to how it's going to unfold with time.
Okay, thank you very much, Baba. I will let Ousainou give us his point of view. This article, Ousainou.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry for having opted out because my ARPS battery died and the internet was a bit shaky too. So, like the Mr. Jammeh and Fofana mentioned, I think this is welcome news because most of the African continent is exposed to risk. And as such, funding would help in mitigating the impact of disaster. The fact that African Development Bank has a disaster risk fund, it's an important step in the right direction. Of course, we are not very familiar with the disaster situation in Somalia, but when these things happen, we know that they can affect lives and property, and obviously could affect the development of places where they happen. You look at it, for example, in Gambia, we are mostly affected by flooding, right? Most of the people who have accumulated some wealth, or they get destroyed because of, perhaps, among other things, poor urban planning. Right, people go and live in places that are water prone. Right, these are some of the things that, of course, at national level, people should be aware of. Right, places that are flood prone shouldn't be allocated for housing. You look at a beautiful place like Jammeh, when it's in the rainy season, a lot of places get affected because of poor planning, right? And you blame the individuals who buy the properties there. You also blame the real estate agents as well as government for the lack of foresight and also understanding that if you're allocating these kind of areas to people to live, you're basically exposing yourself to risk in the future that might cost you more than you can gain from allocating these properties. So overall, I would say in Africa, some of these things are self-caused. So what do? We need to make sure that we don't expose ourselves to such situations, and have better planning systems in place. Would help reduce some of the leakages that comes from disaster-related issues. Of course, our populations are exploding, but still we need to plan better, especially in terms of where people habit.
Okay, thank you very much, Ousainou. This brings us to the end of today's show. But before we go, I would just want to mention the indicators of the Rule of Law Index. And the 8 indicators are: one, we have the constraints on government powers, absence of corruption, and open government, fundamental rights. We have order and security, regulatory enforcement, civil justice, and criminal justice. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for making this show a success. Thank you very much for honoring our invitations, and I hope the viewers too enjoy this show. The government will take action on the analysis, observations, and suggestions being made here. Thank you very much once again.
If you don't mind, before you go, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. I just want to say something. 1 minute.
Okay, it's okay. You can go ahead.
Yeah, it's about shifting, from fish consumption to the poultry, or the chicken wing.
Yes.
It's important economically, but we also have to look at the health aspect of it, because there are a lot of health input.
Thank you very much, Baba. Thank you, Sadibou, and thank you, Ousainou. Till we come again next Sunday, this was your host, Binta Ceesay. Thank you. Bye.